So many of you here today are renters, young adults stuck at home, and increasingly not so young adults stuck at home as well. It is in particular really frustrating what we've seen from this government, that they are going to allow rents rise even more to benefit landlords, corporate landlords, institutional investors. The rent pressure zones have challenges with them, but they are the little bit of protection that renters have. We are in an emergency. The government itself accepts that this is an emergency. So how, in God's name, is it okay to lift rent caps, to allow rents rise even higher in the middle of an emergency? We are going to fight this tooth and nail, the lifting of the rent caps.
No, it's not a competition to see who needs it more. Well, it's called divide and conquer. You pit the poor against the poor. And it's a manufactured hatred that comes straight from the top. Keep us all distracted now to try to cover up the rot. Because they're the ones who made the housing crisis. It was not migrants and it was not refugees. And that's why every time we punch down on each other, we fueled in the old liberal disease. Oh, but together we will always be much stronger. A truly united working class. And in a country with so many empty houses, we need to come together to demand homes for all. Yes, everyone. From those living on the streets to those fleeing from the bombs, homes for all. Yes, me and you. Oh, we need homes for the many, not for the few. Sing it with me now if you got it. Homes for all. Yes, everyone. From those living on the streets to those fleeing from the bombs, homes for all. Yes, me and you. Oh, we need homes for the many, not for the few.
We have not been taking housing seriously. Students who are commuting for over an hour, 80% of them say that it has a negative impact on not just their education, but on their entire mental health. This is a crisis that is affecting every single area of our society. What we need is to actually treat it like an emergency and not just use those words. We need action at every step along the way to demand the basic necessity of housing as a human right, where we don't just demand, please don't remove the basic measures that are helping us a little bit, but pushing for the actual thing that everyone needs.
Fantastic to see so many people out putting housing back top of the agenda. CATU, as you're probably aware, is a membership organisation made up of tenants, people in homeless accommodation, public housing tenants, anyone who's not a landlord. Spanish tenants unions getting organised, who in April mobilised tens of thousands on the streets. They made a very important point that this isn't just a housing crisis, this is a housing business. Landlords are increasingly carrying out illegal rent increases. Big landlords like IRAs are bringing in fees and other ways of bypassing the rent pressure zones. So we're saying we need this protection, we also really need it enforced. And organised tenants unions are a massive part of doing that. The Irish Property Owners Association are another force welcoming these changes. They're the landlords union. The landlords are organised and we have to be as well. The solution we need is a mass programme of universally accessible public housing and a radical reduction of rents. Build community power and demonstrate that there's a real positive alternative to the anger felt by working people all over this island. You know, we're getting back deposits, we're getting maintenance works done, council tenants are organised to get listened to, heard and get their homes fixed. These are real wins that we're winning out in the streets. We've been left behind and ignored for too long. It's time to stand up and fight back.
Kind of what I wanted to speak to here today is, I suppose, the human impact of what we're talking about, the traumatic influence that renting in Ireland is now. We're talking about this in matters of supply and demand, profitability and investment, but these are real people's stories, these are real people's lives. My home is not an investment, it is my home. And to look at it through that incredibly cold lens and to say, well, I'm not making enough money on this. I lived in a tenancy where rents were increased twice outside of RPC allowances. And I said, this is actually like quite illegal. I don't think you should be doing this. And I was told, if you don't like it, you can leave. So they don't even care, some of them, about this in the first place, which is why we should look at enforcement as well. And I felt completely disempowered in that moment, and that's how renters feel. There are no protections. The roof over your head is not secure and can be taken away from you at any moment. There are solutions. They're just completely blind or deaf to them, or they just don't care. I just don't think that any person with empathy can look at this situation, look at the homelessness figures, look at the poverty figures, look at the people who are at risk, fear-struck by these callous announcements constantly. Oh, will we take away RPZs? Will we not? These are real people's lives and these are their homes.
What we're seeing is massive lobbying by the institutional investors, by large landlords who want these rent caps removed. I was debating one of them on RTE the other evening, and he said it's like cars or bananas, you buy them, and if people can't afford to pay it, well then the price will reduce. Housing is not a banana or a car. You can't live without housing. You need a home. So people will pay whatever they have to pay, and that's why there is no end to the rising rents. We need rent controls, we need rent caps to be kept in place, or we will see huge levels, even worse, of homelessness, of poverty amongst renters, of people being pushed into hidden homelessness, because we know homelessness figures don't even capture what is actually going on in terms of people couch surfing. We're seeing young people being forced to leave this country as well. We have billions in a budget surplus. To hear the Taoiseach and the government say, we're doing all we can and the state is doing all it can, it's not. A crisis 10 years on is no longer a crisis. Some people would say it's policy.
He queues at the soup run just before 6 p.m. A feeling of shame hanging heavy on his head. His once high spirits are now as dampened as his clothes. His fingers are stiff, frozen down to the bone. The cracks in the pavement seem to mirror his soul. His frail, broken body feels 100 years old. He sleeps every night on a mattress of stone. He wakes every morning, cold, hungry, alone. Another poor victim of the capitalist scourge. Another life lost to the class divide purge. Another statistic on the government's books. They say there's no crisis. The lying, rotten crooks.
Rents are rising at their fastest pace in the last 2 decades, with national average rent surpassing 2,000 for the first time ever. But for many people here, it's been 2,000 for a long time. And what is the government doing? They're talking about taking away the only protection that renters have in this country. Workers are under threat every day from their landlord, and in the workplace, you see that kind of stress come out in people. That's a real thing that people deal with every day of the week. The fear that if you make a mistake in your job or you lose your job, that you will not be able to pay the rent. And where will you end up then? You will end up on the street. You will end up homeless. And if you're fortunate enough now, you'll end back in your parents' box room. And I think that is encapsulates how wrong the system is. The only protections we have are being taunted at us that they're going to be taken away from us completely. Landlords are licking their teeth. Institutional landlords are licking their teeth. And all of these landlords are a part of a really powerful lobbying group called IBEC. And who does the government go to when they look for consultation on things? They do not go to the trade unions that represent workers. They go to IBEC. Constantly, consultation does not happen with the people who represent the most vulnerable in society, but instead they consult with IBEC. They consult with the Irish Property Owners Association. They consult with people whose profits are at a record high. We need to have hope, but we need to organise more than ever before. Because IBEC have had their elbow in. They'll profit off of this, but it'll put us all out potentially onto the street.
Where I'm from in Limerick City saw the highest rent increases in the country in the last 3 months. I've seen landlords put up 20% increases on the rent, where we're living in a rent pressure zone in the entirety of Limerick City, where they attack them. They do not serve them their accommodation. With us as a technology university, we don't obviously have our own student accommodation. We're not allowed to build it by HEA policy. So that leaves us completely relying on the private sector. Our student accommodation is owned and run by PMI. The stories we hear of students being taken advantage of every day on the smallest things. They give out replacement bulbs for the student accommodation. The bulbs they give out now are traffic light bulbs, just because it runs up the electricity costs higher in the apartment. PMI target these students every day and every way. The accommodation they live in is covered in mould, it's damp. It's not good accommodation, it's not suitable, it's not livable accommodation. We need to see more action, more people being out there fighting government in these things.
This is kind of a song about what Rory was just saying about fighting back when the government have kind of pushed everyone further and further, and people have nothing left to give, and hopefully things are turning, people get sick of it, and we'll all kind of have a good fight back. So this is called We Will Rise. When we've had enough of government corruption, yeah, all the brown envelopes and lies. When we say we won't lie here and just take it, oh, we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. So when all of their lies have been spoken and all of their promises are broken, well, there will finally come a day when we finally say no more. And all of our future's been foretold, well, there will finally come a day when we finally say no more. We will rise, we will rise, we will rise, and we'll say no more will you us, and no more of your lies, and no more of your folly, and we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. So when we've had enough of being pushed